Are we live yet? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Are we live? Do we have sound? I'm just looking at the chat thing. I've got it up here on my phone. Give me a thumbs up or say something if you can hear me okay. Yep, you can hear me. Good, good. And can you hear this? Is that coming through as well? You're live and sounding good. Alright, thank you. So I don't really have a particular plan for this live stream. Yeah, I got the wide monitor. Yeah, I went with this is actually the second one I got. The first one I got had some dead pixels and the colours were off, so I went with a slightly different one. And I went with the flat one in the end rather than the curved one. So if you're on a screen that is a normal size and this looks weird, I can resize my window so it streams at a smaller size. If that's helpful, just let me know. So yeah, I don't really have a plan. I've got some bugs I want to fix in well, this is Sophia Woodwinds, so I was just going to work on that. And then if you've got any questions or anything sort of sample development related that you want to ask, just post it and I'll do my best to answer it. And if you've got any snippets of code that you're working on and you'd like me to take a look at it, just post it on the HISE forum. There's a thread there and I can load it up and we can take a look and see if I can do anything to help you with it. And if I keep glancing off down there, that's because that's where I've got the chat. So I'll show you what the bug is that I've noticed. So everything looks ugly because I've disabled my look and feel styles on this, but there's I've got my mod wheel connected to this this knob here, and this controls dynamic crossfades. And if I open a sampler, so I'm in the new layout branch, by the way, so if this all looks strange to you, that's because I'm on the new layout branch and it has a new layout. So yeah, if I open the Xfade window, crossfade table editor, which is a really handy little feature. So these are my 3 dynamic layers, and as I move my mod wheel, you see the line goes across. And the first problem I've got is my mod wheel is currently at the max position. Let's just bring that back. So that knob's at the max, but it's only going to about there. So I figured out that's because I've got this modulator here that's doing that. So if I disable that, it goes almost all the way. And then the other thing I found out was I've got this table curve, and because I've got a curve on it, it never gets to the full value. You can see there's a tiny little gap there. So it's not going quite up to the full value. But if I disable the table, then it does go all the way. So that's a bit weird. And I noticed, I think it does the same if I curve it that way as well, maybe? Yeah, so if there's a curve, it kind of doesn't quite get to the end. It's weird. But that's a bug for Christoph, I think, not for me. So I'm just going to focus on getting these dynamics working. So the other issue I've got, and the one I'm going to try and fix now, is I have a script here called attack accent. And what that does, if I play a key a bit hard, if I play like velocity 65, you'll see, well, I'll just do it and you'll see what happens. You can see that the bar sort of jumps up and then goes back down. So that's my little accent on the attack, and if I just press softly, it just rises. But the problem is, if I move my dynamics all the way to the top and then press it, it's not going all the way to the top like it should. Like it should be up there, but if I press hard, it's only there. So I need to figure out why it's not actually respecting the value of the dynamics. Am I sure the last point is set to 1? Let's check. I mean, I haven't touched the last point, so it's like set as high as it can go. And let's move that. Yeah, so that's set right to the top, and that's still got a little gap there. By the way, I'm doing a sort of zooming in thing here, but I don't know if that comes across in the screen share, so let me know if that works, if you can see that zoom in. So yeah, so I want to figure out why this is only going to there. So it's something to do with this script, and I wrote this script ages ago, so I can't remember what it does. So let's see. Right, I've got a mute button and the dynamics, so I'm guessing this actually sets the threshold that I put for the velocity. So we'll take a look in the on-note callback. No zoom. Ah, okay, yeah. I didn't know if that would come across in the screen share. I guess that's just on my side. So if the mute button's disabled, so that's that one, and the velocity is above 64, and the velocity is above the dynamics knob. Oh, okay, so I'm guessing I was meant to link. I think I know what I was meant to do. I think this is meant to control the dynamics. And I haven't connected that up yet. CC dynamics. Let's have a look. So is that controlling this? Ah, okay, so my knob on the interface is meant to control this knob here, and I've got it set up to control this modulator, so that's the problem. So my script is actually fine. So I just have to change where I've linked that. So this one here, yeah, I've currently got it linked to CC dynamics, which is this modulator. I need to have it linked to attack accent, and then dynamics, and hopefully it'll work. So is it still controlling that? Yeah, so now it's controlling the knob on the attack accent script, and then that's being forwarded to the CC dynamics. And that explains why I had to put this script as a global modulator. So now, if I bring this up, so now it should respect wherever I put the dynamics knob, which seems to be right. Oh, well, that was an easy fix. I'm glad I didn't really have to fix anything. That's excellent. So the next thing I want to do is, I've got these modulators here. These are actually script node patches, so these are LFOs. And Christoph helped me with this, and a few other guys on the forum. And it's basically an LFO on this side, and then over here I've got a second oscillator which is just generating some noise, which randomizes the frequency and also randomizes the output of the LFO. Let's see if we can get that. So that's connected to this knob here. I've got to play something. So this is for simulating vibrato. Let me know if that volume level's alright, by the way, or if it's too loud or too quiet. So what I want to do with this is, on my interface I've got two controls for it. So I've got depth and rate, and these control the intensity or the value of the oscillator, and the rate controls the frequency. But these are linked up to different parts of the project. So I've got these are global modulators, so I can connect them up to several different parts. So I've got it set up somewhere in here. Where is it? There we go. Vibrato mod. So here it's controlling the gain, and then the same modulator is also controlling pitch somewhere. Where is it? There it is. And it's also controlling the crossfade. So those three things, pitch, volume and crossfade, are what I'm using to simulate the dynamics, simulate the vibrato. And these values here, like 0.3 and 0.05, those will vary depending on the instrument. So that's how I've got them set up for the alto flute. But I've got like clarinets, bassoons and oboes, and they'll need different values. And rather than sort of hard coding them, I'd like to have a little hidden interface so the user won't see it, but I'll see it, and I'd like to be able to use those to control these values here so that they'll be saved with each preset. So I've got a secret panel here which is hidden, and I call this my admin panel, and I've set up some controls on the front. So I've got pitch, gain, and I'll call it timbre, but that's controlling the crossfade, and these don't do anything yet, so I want to try and connect these up. So I'm going to make, I think I'll make a second script which controls these, and then I'll link these controls over to that. So let me just see, or I could just connect them directly. I like the idea of making a separate little script for this. So I might change it later, but for now I'll make a separate little script. So I'm just going to add a new script processor in here. And I'll call it something like Vibrato Handler. Yep, Vibrato Handler. And what I want to do is get references to all these modulators that are vibrato related, and there's sort of different ways I could do it. I could just do them manually, or I could sort of do it algorithmically. I'm just thinking what the best way is. I think because in this patch, in this program, let's see, yeah, in this project, I've only got vibrato happening on the first sampler, so I think I'll just do it manually, just grab references like that. So it's the pitch and crossfade. Okay, and then I'm going to need three controls, so I'll just write them out. Small tip, if you alt click or control click in the module browser, you can oh that's interesting, because I wanted something like that earlier. So if I, what's that, alt click, hello Sampleson, control click on there. That's excellent. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I was trying to figure out how to do that earlier on. I was looking for a little button over there, which doesn't exist. So control click or alt click and click on them. Yeah, because I'm on Linux, alt click is tied to shifting windows around, so holding alt doesn't do anything. Although I could disable that, but I kind of got used to that functionality. But control click works. Right, so yeah, I'm going to create some controls on here. I'm going to create three knobs, the same three I had in my little panel here, these three. And the reason I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it over here in the interface design, I'm actually going to declare them in the script, is because I might want to use this script in other projects. And if the interface is defined in the script, then the interface will sort of be carried over to other projects as well. So I'm going to need 3 knobs. We're going to have K and B gain. If my typing's a bit loud, let me know and I can adjust things. What am I doing? Content, create. It's been so long since I've done it like this. I can't even remember what it is. It's create knob, create slider, add. That's what it is. I remember now. Add knob. That's the one. And I'm just going to position these. I find if you're trying to just lay out controls on a sort of neat grid, if you put them 150 pixels apart on the horizontal, you get quite a neat layout. If you're doing them vertical, then I think it's 50 pixels I found was quite good. Now I just need to decide what range I want for each of these knobs. Let's change the text as well. I like things to look neat. That's a bit better. So the range I'm going to want for the gain, well, the gain is a 0 to 1 range, so that's the default anyway, so I don't need to change anything with the gain. And that's also the same for the timbre or the crossfade, but the pitch, this is a pitch value, and I'm not going to want to go more than 1 semitone either way, and I think I'm only ever going to be in a positive range anyway. I don't think I'll ever go negative. So I'll just set this to, I'll set it from like -1 to +1. I tell you, my typing's loud and I've got a mechanical keyboard. I'll see if I can adjust that. It's because I've got the microphone right here, it's right above the keyboard. Everybody complains that my typing's too loud. Okay, let's set the range for the pitch. K and B pitch. So I'll type a bit more softly. Set range -1, +1, and 0.01 I think is what I want. Let's have a look. Yeah, that should be good. Now, let's see, I've got these. I was going to set these to be controlled by set attribute, but maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just connect them directly. Makes it slightly less portable, but then again, if I'm taking all these modules to another project anyway, they'll still be there. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I think I'll just set it up like that, so I'm just going to connect them directly. So that will be vibrato. Where have I put that one? Vibrato mod, there it is. Intensity. So that's the gain connected, so that should now control this one. There we go. So I'll set that back to where it was. And then I'll just do the same with the pitch. So many things to go through. Pitch. This is why it's important to give things clear names so that you can find them again, especially when we've got a lot of them. So all my things that are in sampler 0 start with the name sampler 0 so I can find them more easily. Intensity. Okay, that should be all of those connected up. Then I'll put 0.05, get back to where I was. 0.6. Ooh. Oh, that's in semitones. Okay, so I might have to do some sort of translation there, because these values don't match. Why is that? Okay, I'll figure that one out afterwards. But the timbre, that should work. I've forgotten where I had that. I think it was somewhere around there. That'll do. And then the next thing to do is to link my controls on the main interface to this script. And I could have just connected the main interface directly to these modules, but I'm kind of thinking ahead, and in the future I may have these modulators be duplicated, so there wouldn't just be like one pitch modulator. I might have one in the second sampler as well, in which case I'll come back to this script and I'll do it through set attribute instead of processor ID. So interface. The pop-up menus don't appear in the stream for some reason. I think it's because they're not part of the HISE window. Oh, okay. So the pop-up menus aren't appearing, but are you still seeing the contents of the drop-down once I've set it? So you're still seeing the processor ID and stuff like that? So what I want to do is take that one. So that's the pitch. Is that the pitch? Yeah. So that's going to have the same range. So -1 and then 0.01. Yeah. Middle position 0. And then I connect this one up, which you won't be able to see, but let's see, where is that one? Vibrato handler, and then pitch. Okay, so you won't see that, but I can show you the result afterwards. And then gain, middle position should be 0.5. Gain and timbre. Okay, let's see if that works. So now moving these controls should move those ones. Oh, I'm still in edit mode. There we go. So yeah, that works, and then that should move these ones down here. So yeah, they're all linked together. I just have to figure out why that pitched things off. But that mostly works now. So these controls here on my main interface, these will be saved with the preset, so it means I can go through each of my different instruments that I've got here, my different woodwind instruments, and set up the vibrato values so that they're more suitable for each instrument, and then when I come to reload the preset, those values will be restored. Hi, Mike Mechanics. Oh, hi, Rob. Is this an ultra-wide monitor or something? Yes, it's an ultra-wide monitor. Are you saying you can't see the content? Oh, you can see the content. Oh, I see. Oh, that's of the drop-downs. Okay, you can see it. Good, good. Yeah, it's an ultra-wide monitor. I got one because Christoph had one, still has one, and I saw the benefits of it for HISE, because HISE has this, I guess Christoph designed it because he uses a widescreen monitor, so for him maybe it seemed more natural, but on my previous monitor everything felt a bit cramped, and I guess some of you guys who are on normal monitors will probably feel the same way, that you can't really see all of your interface designer at the same time as looking at your script and stuff. But there is, if you go into view and go vertical layout, you might find, is it going to crash? No, there's okay. You might find this layout is better for you if you're on a smaller monitor, especially if you're working in the interface designer a lot. Something else you can do is what I usually do is I have a custom workspace, and it's vanished for some reason. Where's my custom workspace gone? I changed something. There was a new push earlier today, and Christoph added something. Where has it gone? Development, auto show workspace, and I turned that off and I saved, and then my custom workspace vanished, and then I've re-enabled it and my custom workspace still isn't there. So I'll figure out where that's gone later. But usually I have a custom workspace here with like extra script windows and the UI designer and the server panel as well. It's a 34-inch. Okay, good. Yeah, it's a minor inconvenience. Yeah, it's a 34-inch. I wouldn't be able to fit anything larger on this desk. I've got speakers on either side, and the monitor just fits between them. But also, I think if I went for a large one, it would definitely have to be curved. I think this is kind of about the limit you can go with a flat one. But yeah, I got the first wide one last week, and found it had some dead pixels. So that one's going back to Amazon. And in the meantime, I went back to my previous monitor, which is a 27-inch, and it felt so strange because I kind of got used to the wider screen after using it for about 3 or 4 days. And going back to the small one was weird. Well, I say small, it's 27-inch 2K monitor, so it was still plenty of room, but it seemed small compared to the widescreen. Right, so I'm going to save that. I'm also just going to check in on the HISE forum, see if anybody's posted any snippets or anything for me to have a look at. If you've got anything you want me to look at, please let me know. And if you're a UI designer, somebody on the HISE forum is asking for a UI designer, so hop over there and talk to them. Alright, so that's that done. How do I hide that? Okay. So, oh, that was it. I need to sort that pitch issue. I knew there's something left to do. Okay, so we'll go back to the vibrato handler. And where's my pitch? Pitch mod. Okay, so why isn't that matching? So if I set that to a range, so 0 to 1, middle position should be 0. Step size 0.1. Let's try that. Oh, okay, that's because this is an intensity slider. Right, I get it. Okay, so if I just set this to -12 and 12. Will that work? No, it still doesn't work. Oh, okay, so intensity, so this is expecting 0 to 1 still, is that it? If anybody knows the answer, please tell me. I'm probably missing something really obvious. Let's see. 0, okay, so 0 is 0 and 1 is 12. I'm sure I've figured this out before. Have I got to convert it to some sort of intensity value? Tile disappearing and other related issues might happen if you go back and forth between develop and new layout without flushing the HISE app data UI XML. Yeah, I found there's been a few issues occasionally when switching between different branches, and what I tend to do is just delete my config folder for HISE and just start afresh. Although sometimes if I've got a custom layout, I'll save the XML and then I can reload that. A&W root beer, if you're wondering. Okay, it'll be something, is it intensity? Modulator set intensity. I'm trying to remember what the value is to convert the pitch. Get pitch ratio, that's the one. So I will have to set this one. Okay, so I'll set this one through scripting then. So let's just turn that off, so we'll get rid of that. Having the API browser here is one of the best things ever, because it's so easy just to look up commands by searching. If you know approximately what you want, you know it's something to do with pitch, type in pitch and you'll find out what it is. Create reference. Pitch intensity is -1 to 1, but it's shown as minus 12, 12. So if you want to use a 1 semitone range, you'll need yeah, I'll just do it through this way. I think I'll probably end up doing this anyway for multiple modulators in the future. So anyway, it's more fun to use scripted callbacks. Set control callback. I could probably use the autocomplete for this, but I'm so used to writing it out. What am I doing? Oh yeah, that one. Let's attribute. And what is the attribute? Be intensity. Oh, it'll be set intensity, not set attribute. Set intensity. I hope I'm doing that right. Get modulator, set intensity. Seems right. I'll put value in there. I'm going to have to convert the value to the pitch ratio, but I just want to see if I've actually got the right command. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Oh, actually, I don't need to convert it to a pitch ratio. It sets it from 1 to 1. Okay, I will be happy with that then. So, and that's going 0.01. So, is that working now then? If I set this to 0.05, will that be 0.05? It will. Oh, okay. Well, that's sorted. And what happens if I change it on the interface? So that's this one. 0.01, 0.01, and 0.01. Oh, great. It all works. Fantastic. That saves me a job. Alright, so those were my two biggest problems I was having with this. Well, there's probably other problems, but those were the things I noticed today. There was that weren't working exactly as I expected. So let's hide the admin panel now, and we'll release the look and feel from captivity, and we can see what it should look like. There we go, that's better. And that vibrato should be working. What's going on there now? Oh, it's set to 0. Did I not actually set any values? And now of course I can't see them. Okay, that should be 0.3. Yep, that should be something like 0.6. Okay. There we go, now we have vibrato. Oh, and a really bad loop. that's not a well looped sample. Let's have a loop at that. So, oh, I should save this preset. There we go. So now those vibrato settings will be saved. No idea why it works now. Yeah, I don't know either, but sometimes, yeah, there's happy accidents. Is it this one? Yeah, that's got a horrible loop. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So that's this sample here. Okay, so we've got, again, if you haven't used the new layout branch, this will be new to you, but we've got a much improved waveform display, wave editor. I've just thought, actually, you guys on the stream, you're going to be seeing me in a little window somewhere on this window. I think it's in the bottom right corner. If it gets in the way of anything... Oh, actually, I can see it on here. Yeah, I'm kind of blocking the table now, aren't I? But it'll be fine. I don't need anything over that side. But yeah, if it does get in the way, let me know and I can try and move it. So there's my loop point, this blue section. Oh, and it's a horrible loop. But we've got some nice features now that we didn't have before. We've got the spectrogram view, which is just, oh, that's lovely. So nice. But what I'm interested in is we've got a loop finder. Oh, and we've got a crash. A trademark crash. It hasn't crashed for you guys yet because there's a slight delay on the stream. But it's crashed for me. Still at the spectrogram view. Okay, yeah. Right, I'm going to switch actually to share my screen because let's see. So you should be able to see my full screen. Let's see. Can you see my screen? I'll show you what's happening. So let me just manual zoom. Yeah, okay, so this is an issue. So I'm opening Sophia Woodwinds and it's just, let's see, is it going to crash again? Oh, it didn't crash this time. Okay, I was thinking perhaps there's something wrong with the XML and I was going to have to try and debug it, but actually it seems to be working okay. So it's just one of HISE's trademark crashes, so we don't have to worry about that. No anime background. No, I'm not the typical Linux user. No anime background. In fact, there's nothing on my desktop. It's completely empty. I've actually got one of the default backgrounds that came with I don't know if it's Debian or with Cinnamon, the desktop environment, but usually I'd just have like a gradient or a blank color. I mean, I'm hardly ever looking at the desktop, so anything that'll use less CPU. Right, so I want to fix that loop. Screen insight. Okay, yeah, I think we should just be back to HISE now. Is that right? It looks like you're still seeing my full window, but see. Oh no, it's gone now. Okay. Right, so it's that A, I think. No, this A. Okay, and have I lost my vibrato settings? Nope, still there. Good. Okay, please don't crash this time. Please. Okay. So I'm going to open the loop finder. I'm scared to adjust this slider now. Oh, let's see what happens. Ah! Okay, I'm not going to adjust the slider this time. We'll leave the slider where it is. And okay, load up, didn't crash. Load that one. And okay, so we'll try that again. I don't know if that's a new crash because I don't remember it having that problem before. It could just be this sample set. I'll have to try it with a different one. So okay, so I've got the loop finder. Not going to click the slider of doom, but we'll click this button and this should find an improved loop point. Let's see if it worked. Oh, I've got to click this button. Oh, that's loud. That's very loud. You can see the pop-up menus now. Oh, hang on. So there's a delay between what I do on the screen, what I see in the chat, and what you guys say. So I'm going to open a pop-up menu now in the sample window, mapping window. Let me know if you can see that. If you can't, then I think I just have to go back to sharing my desktop and then you will be able to see it. Why have all the samples turned blue? I didn't ask for blue samples. Why are all my samples blue? Is it because of that? Oh, okay. Editing loop points so all the samples go blue. Just make sure I'm on the right one. Yeah, that loop point's not improved much, but I mean, looking at this sample, it's fairly horrible. Look at that, we've got some noise here. No, you need to share your desktop. Ah, okay, right, mystery solved, so I'll share the desktop then. Okay, so desktop should be shared now. Yeah. Let's have a look in the HISE forum. The UI designer has a response, okay. Right. So yeah, it's a pretty horrible sample. So something has changed between the previous version of HISE, the develop branch, and the new layout with regards to placing loop points and adjusting the start position of your samples and the end position. So it used to be that you click and drag. I don't know if that's returned. Oh, okay, so prove me wrong, it's back. So you can do it that way, but the new way that Christoph's added, which I really like, is you just left click to set the start position and you right click to set the end position, and I really like that. I find it much faster, especially now that we've got this little crosshair thing as well. And if we zoom in, you can position it really accurately, so I like that. And it's the same thing for the loop points, so left click to position the start, right click for the end. But I can see I need to do some work on this particular sample because it's got this noisy bit here. Actually, it doesn't sound that bad. It's not great, but oh, actually I know what's happening there, because I've got the dynamic layers and the loop points are different now on the different layers. I'm hearing a kind of phasing as it's looping one of the samples, so I'd have to get this sample in isolation. Do we have a group solo? I don't think there's a group solo option in HISE, is there? Oh, we got group solo. Is that right? No, that'll just lock the RR group if you're doing round robins. Yep, desktop needed for pop-up apparently. So you can see that pop-up now. Yeah. Oh, my screen's gone off. So yeah, there's a feature request, group solo. Just be handy. If we've already got it, show me so I can use it. So something else I like to do, which HISE will crash when I do this probably because I'm going to open a different file. So I'm going to open this sample mapping one. So I'm expecting a crash. We'll see. Yeah, there's a crash. That's okay. It crashes when you expect them and are not unpleasant, because you have time to save your work. Okay, so I'm going to load up this one. So when I'm putting together a project, I usually make a dedicated mini project for just mapping the samples, and that way I can do certain things that I wouldn't want to do in my main project. So where's that alto flute? There it is. So we've got the alto flute sustains, and so this is the same sample map we were looking at before. And where's that A? Okay, yeah, that's fine. So let's zoom in on here. So this is currently set to, this no longer has the crossfades. I didn't set this sampler up with dynamic crossfades, they're disabled. So this is great for when I just want to hear a particular group, when I want to do a group solo essentially. So if I want to solo group 3, I just wait for it to get to 3, and then I click the lock button, and now it'll stick on group 3. And there's that sample. So now I can hear that suspicious bit over here. Ah, okay, yeah, so it isn't so great. Just gonna turn my volume up a bit. Do I have... Oh, okay, that's why it's quiet. That's better. Yeah, so I'll probably remove this sample and use a different take, or maybe I'll just chop that bit out or something. Yeah, I'll do something with that, but the sample isn't usable in its current state. But what I like to do especially with multiple dynamics. Is to avoid phasing, I need to copy the loop points between the samples. So let's pick a different one. So let's pick this one. So we've got a loop there, and it starts at that position and ends at that position. And if I go to, so this is dynamic 3. If I go to dynamic 2 and click the same sample, what is it? Okay, it's that E. Click the same sample. So we've got an identical loop here. Okay, because I've already set these up, so they're all identical for all 3 dynamics. But let's say I change the one on dynamic 3. So I go, okay, I want the loop point to go from here to here. So now it's going to be different. Let's just turn that off. Now it's going to be different on the other samples. So, oh, did I set it on number 1 instead? Oh, I set it on number 1. But yeah, so it's different. So number 1's there, number 2 and number 3 are here. And I need them all to match. So I can do that through scripting. Except I'm just going to change this on number 3 because that's how I've got it set up in my script. So number 3 can go, there we go. So I need them all to be in the same place so that when you crossfade between them, they don't slip out of sync with each other and cause phasing and comb filtering and all sorts of other nasty things. So rather than copy these numbers manually through each of the dynamic layers, I actually have a script that can do it. So this is another wonderful feature of HISE, is we can script our own sample mapping, and the way I've done it here is actually a bit more complicated, I think, than you need to, because since I did this, new features have been implemented. You can actually make it so you can select samples in here with the mouse and then apply a script to them, but that's not how mine's set up. So it's a little complicated, but I'll try and explain it. So let's show the interface first of all. So I've got this button here, copy sample data. That's the button we're interested in. Oh, by the way, does the zoom work now that we're sharing the desktop? Let me know if that zoom works. So when that button is pressed, it triggers this callback, and we create a selection of the samples in the sampler, and I'm just grabbing all of the samples. But like I say, you could do it where you select some with a mouse, or you can select a subset. Basically you put in the value there. I'm just using a wildcard that selects all of the samples. If the loop is identical, what if the loop is not good on a specific dynamic? I'm using phase aligned samples, so that's not an issue. But yes, if that's not the case, zoom works, great. If that's not the case, then you'll have to loop them independently and you'll have a lot more work to do. But yeah, in my case, because they're phase aligned, the loops have to be synchronized to keep everything in phase. So got my selection, then I'm just looping through the selection. So S refers to whichever sample it's currently stepping through, and then I'm just grabbing a load of properties from that sample. So I'm getting the sample's file name, its sample start, that's this green area you can see, the pitch, the loop start and the loop end, the loop crossfade, is the loop enabled, and the start mod. Oh no, the start mod is the green area. The start, of course, is the start of the sample. So I'm taking that value, and then assuming the name has come through. I don't know why the name would ever be undefined, but for some reason I've put that check in there, but I'm not sure it's needed. So assuming the sample has a name, which it must do, the sample name is actually the full path, which you might be able to see that up there. So it's actually the full path, which isn't what I'm interested in. I only want the last part of the name, which is the file name. So that's what this is doing. It's just stripping out the path. And then I'm saying if it's dynamic 3, create another selection which has the same name as the sample. So name dot replace, and I'm replacing dynamic 3 with dynamic 2. So I'm selecting the same sample but on the dynamic 2 layer, and I'm just applying all the values here that I saved up there. I'm just applying all of these to the dynamic 2 layer, and if it's got a loop, I'm applying the loop points. So that'll copy them across. And then I'm doing the same thing for dynamic 2. If it's dynamic 2, then I'm getting dynamic 1. And I don't know why I did it like this, because it means I have to press the button. To copy it to the 2 layers, I have to press it once, and it'll do layer 2, and then I have to copy it again for layer 1. I'm not sure why I did that. I could have done this better, but I've been too lazy to fix it. So let's have a look. So that's dynamic 3. Is that the right one? I can't remember which sample it was now. We'll go with this. Oh, it was E, wasn't it? Okay, so that's where it is on layer 3, and on layer 2 it's there. So we want them to be the same. So if I click my button now, copy sample data, and then I click it a second time, they'll now all be the same. So need to go to number 3 first of all. So number 3 is there, number 2 same place, and dynamic 1 same place. So it's copied all of those settings across just at the click of a button, and it does that for all of the samples in the sample map. So it just saves me loads of time, because it means I only have to really tweak dynamic 3, and it copies them all across. Do I lose the natural delay between them? Yeah, I guess so, because I mean, softer samples, especially for woodwind instruments, tend to start with a sort of, and then it goes into the note. You get a bit more breath at the beginning. So yeah, I guess I'm losing that. But then again, when you're playing it on a keyboard, it's not always good to have that slow delay. Some people just want to hit a note and hear a sound straight away. I guess I could align them to the lowest dynamic so that I'd get that, and then use like a start offset so people can control it. I kind of do that with some of them. I don't know if I've got that on here. So some of them that have a bit more sort of pre-attack, I set up a velocity modulator, so the harder you press the key, it just kind of shifts in the start time a bit. But yes, I really like this ability to copy data between samples. And the other thing I have in here is I have a sine wave generator, which, let's see. So I just use that for tuning. So I tune the samples with like an auto tuner. The one I use actually is Signet. I've made a video about Signet, which is a command line tool. So I tune the samples with that, and then in HISE I tweak the tunings. I don't know if any of these have been adjusted actually. No, I can't see any adjustments, but I'll go through one by one, and then I adjust the pitch value here. And what I was doing was I was then exporting this pitch value to a text file and rerunning it through Signet with those values, and then resetting these to 0. It was kind of complicated, but so I've got this export pitch button. So none of these have any pitch adjustment though, so let me just adjust the pitch of this one, for example. Set it to 50 cents. And then if I go export pitch, it will write a file to the desktop, this one here, with the name of the sample map. And this is actually a bash script which it creates, and then it puts in the Signet command. So now all I have to do is run this file through a terminal, and it will actually tune the samples, and then I can remove the tuning from within HISE. But I don't know if I'm actually going to use this, because I kind of like just doing it inside HISE. But it's nice to have this as a reference so I can see which samples are being tuned. And this hash here, that actually, that just means that this line is commented out, because there's no point in applying a tuning value of 0. So it's good to have that. And then the other thing I can do is, let's say I set this, what I set it to, 50 here. If I change that back to 0, and if I press this other button, import pitch, and then I can select the file, and it will import that data back in, and you can see it set it back to 50. So it's just a handy way to sort of get data in and out of HISE, and to do that I'm just using, what am I using? Write string, that's the function. So it's a cool little thing just to get the mapping data out, but of course that mapping data is already in the sample map, Well, it would be if I hit save. So I don't know if I'm going to use this. HISE currently at least doesn't have an XML parser that we can access from the scripting. So if you do want to get anything in and out, just writing it on individual lines like I've done here is sort of the easiest way. I suppose you could also do like a comma separated file or something as well. What else shall I show you? Okay, let's have a look at... so again, we're going to get a crash because I'm going to change project, and that always causes a crash. Oh, we're not getting a crash. We're not getting a crash. Oh, the HISE gods shine upon me today. Okay, so no crash. I'm going to just load up what I have here, other than the HISE forum, is I have a program called XAMPP. It's also called LAMP on... I don't know if it's LAMP on Linux or what, but anyway, it's a virtual web server. You can export, import JSON files. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, in this case, I just wanted it to be individual lines because I was planning on running it as a bash script, but yeah, JSON would work as well. So yeah, I've got this virtual web server, which will load eventually, just starting the servers. There we go. And if you're doing anything with HISE that's connecting to a server that you own, like a proper web server, and you want to do testing, especially with downloading files and things like that, you should probably set up a local server just on your computer, like using XAMPP or LAMP or whatever it's called on your platform. And that way you can do all the testing you like without actually needing to connect to a web server, and you don't have any delays, and you can download files without wasting bandwidth. And it's just great for testing. I mean, even if you just got a website completely unrelated to HISE, it's good to have a sort of local testing server as well for this kind of thing. So anyway, I've got a web server now running in the background, and this is what I've been working on lately. So I wanted to make a little app sort of thing, or a front end for my plugin, where users can access the libraries they've bought through my website. So this is what I've come up with, and I didn't come up with a design. That was a designer by the name of Reza who came up with this. He goes by Flatheart on DeviantArt. Scott, if you're still in the chat, you'll probably know who Flatheart is. But yeah, so he designed this. He's done a few designs for me now, and I really like his work. And basically, it's just like it's like Pulse, the Pulse downloader, or the Spitfire audio app, or any sort of generic download manager. But I've tied it specifically to my site. So what we really need to see here is the server window, server controller. There we go. So usually I'd have my custom layout open, which has this, but that's bugged at the moment. So there's a server interface. Let's make that a bit smaller. And if I click this button here to log out, so we've got like your regular kind of login screen. You've seen this sort of thing before. And I'll just log in with a generic customer name. And the user can register as well. So I've got all this linked up to the web server, so if they register here, it actually creates an account on the web server and sends them an email and stuff like that. So this acts like a sort of dumb front end for the web server. So nothing that is critical to security is done on the client side in this app. It's all done on the server. This just communicates with it. There's my nice little reveal password thing. I posted a video about doing that yesterday. So log in, and then it connects to the server, and we'll see some stuff over here. It's downloading all the images, and it's also telling me there's a new version of this app available. Would I like to download it? That's a lie. There isn't a new version because it doesn't exist yet. That was just for testing. So we've got a few server calls, downloads these images, and it also downloads a bunch of data about all these products, and I'll show you where it puts that. If I open my config file, that folder, I think. That one. Okay, so user credentials are stored in there. Cache. Okay, so this is where it stores all those images, and in this one called cache.json, which I think is encrypted, so I'd rather check before I open it, because if I open it, it's encrypted, it's going to cause a hang. Why is it frozen? Oh, there we go. So that will be in this file, I think. Let's get you out of the way. But yeah, so it downloads, it caches all the data about these products from the website locally. So that means if the user's offline at some point, or my website goes offline, all the information is still on their system. I think having this floating tile here or something is causing some lag. I don't know. I'll close it anyway. Yeah, it's fine now. Okay. So yeah, rebuild cache. Yeah, encrypted object. So yeah, so that JSON file there is encrypted. So if I open it in a text editor, it's just going to be gobbledygook. And then I've got this temp folder here, which when the user installs the product, it downloads these HR files before extracting them. And then it's meant to delete these afterwards, but there's currently a bug on my system, so the installer's not working. But the downloader's working, which is why those files are there. I'll delete those myself. And I don't think there's anything else in here that's really very useful. It's got an install history. Again, I think it's encrypted. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's encrypted. That just keeps a record of which ones they've installed and what version numbers and stuff like that. Oh, there's the crash from opening an encrypted file. There we go. But yeah, so all the product data is on the user's system, so that once they've logged in, they don't have to be connected to the internet unless they make a change to something. Like if they buy a new product, or a new product's posted on the website and they want to see it here, then they'll need to either log out and log back in, or they can click this synchronize button, which let's hope the gods are still smiling, because I think we'll get a crash when I click the synchronize button. We didn't get a crash. Okay, good. So yeah, so that does the same thing as when logging in, it just synchronizes with the server. And then click on that to see some details, see the file size, open a support ticket, visit the website, all that kind of thing, install it, and see the ratings. Luckily those aren't the genuine ratings for this product, those are just on my test server. I'd be very disappointed if that library only had 2.5 stars. So that's pretty much what it does. I've got a filter which shows which products they have a license for, updates available, which ones they've installed, and then there's an uninstall button, and a way to show all of them. I've also got a nice search feature, so if they want to just like Celtic libraries, or they're interested in strings or wind instruments, for example, so that works quite nicely. But that's pretty much it. It took a lot of work to implement it all, and I think it's all working now. Oh, one other thing I've got, which I really wanted, and it's one of the reasons I made this, is rather than having to go through my site to buy a license, you could get a license from like a third-party deal site like Audio Plugin Deals or VST Buzz, and then they can just come and enter their license in here, and it'll register it on their account on my site. But more importantly, a user can sell their license key to another user who can enter it in here, and it will swap it from the first user's account to the second user's. So it makes it really easy for people to resell licenses, because it's really frustrating that you usually can't sell a license. To get the data, do you use License Manager for WooCommerce? I use a License Manager for WooCommerce. I don't know if it's that one. For SID, I don't know if it's his. It might be. I'm using some License Manager for WooCommerce. I can find out later and let you know. Let's see. Do I have anything in here that mentions it? I don't think I've got anything actually on the HISE side that will enlighten us on that, because it's all done on the server side. I can tell you I'm using the JWT token thing to authorized logins. Yeah, so the libraries like this, O'Malley's Irish Whistles and these other sample libraries, they're going to be expansion products. So that's going to use the built-in expansion installer. But products like Sordina, that's actually a VST plugin. So HISE actually allows you to download zip files and extract them. And if the zip file contains a VST plugin and you know where the user wants to put it, you can install VSTs and also uninstall. Although the uninstall won't work if the users move the file, because it won't track the change of location, but it mostly works. So in the settings page, I'll let them choose the path for the VST and AU if they're using AU. And if they've just downloaded like the HR files, for some reason if they haven't done it through my website or whatever, and they've just got the HR files, somebody shared them, they can just install it directly from here instead. So they don't have to go through the licensing thing. So the other thing with the license, because all my stuff is open source, these products, once they get them, it's not a security system, as it were. It's not a way of restricting the user from sharing the product or redistributing or anything like that. It's just a way of limiting who can download from my server. So it's and it also means that people who have a license to download from my server also get access to updates and things like that, and the support ticket stuff. So it basically means you can get these by from somebody who shared them, but you won't get access to all the sort of added features that go with having a proper license. So it just adds more value to the license. That's all. And it's a bit more convenient for users as well, because I know some people have struggled with the HR1 installation system, and it just makes it a bit simpler if all you have to do is click on it and then click install, and it's all taken care of for you. So that's the motivation behind this. Originally I wasn't going to do this. I sort of toyed with it last year, and I started implementing something in one of my plugins that basically was a version of this. But as you can see, I've got all these components here and all this script. I mean, this is just one of the script files. There's a lot of script for this. It's a big project. And tacking all this onto a VST plugin, I felt was just too much bloat. And I didn't want to do that for all of my plugins and add all this extra bloat to it. So that's why I decided against it. But then as the expansion system has been improved, become more versatile, and the download system and everything, I thought, well, I could do it as a kind of standalone app that's linked to my proper HISE projects. So that way all this stuff doesn't have to bloat out my plugins. And it means if the user's adding like multiple instances to their sequencer sessions, they're not going to have all of this stuff going on for every single instance they've added. It's just going to be a standalone program. So makes it easier for me to manage as well, because I don't have to manage it in every single plugin. It's just one place. I wonder if I can bring up my let's see if I can bring that up. Apache web server. Does that let me configure, open log? No, go away. I thought there was a button here to go to application. Is that it? Nope. What's happened there? Oh, it's opening it. I see. No, I don't want to open it in there. Yes, I want to quit. Okay. Let me see if I can bring up the web server side of things. So if I swap to that one, I think. Let's see. He'll have to let me know if this works. So I think I'm swapping the stream over, so I think it's just showing HISE now. Yes, that's just showing HISE. Oh, okay. So let me just. Okay, that does work. Alright, so if I switch that back to screen share, so now you should be able to see my web browser, and this is running on my virtual server. So this isn't live on the internet. This is just my testing server, which looks quite similar to my LibreWave website, but it's like just a sort of quickly put together version. Oh, I'm running out of root beer. So let's have a look. What license manager am I using? Plugins. So I'm using this one, License Manager for WooCommerce, documentation, GitHub. So no, I think this is a different one. I did try the one. Oh, I know what it was. Yeah, that what's he called? Faraz Saidi, whoever he is, that guy. I did actually buy his as well. He was selling his on Code Canyon, I think. But I found that it had more than I needed. This was simpler, and the main thing I wanted was the ability to write my own custom API to link into it, and I don't think his provided a REST API, whereas this one does. If I open the documentation, so this one has a REST API. Oh, he's got a tutorial now. I don't think this was here before, which I found very helpful, and it's a really easy API to use as well. So I wrote a custom plugin, which where is it? Plugins, custom API. I probably need to give this a better name than custom API. So this is the custom plugin I wrote, and this just like, oh yeah, I forgot I added a system for getting demo downloads. I can't remember if I actually implemented that, but that was part of my plan. But yeah, by being able to make a custom API, I could do more than what was available with the endpoints that were given by the plugin that you mentioned. Are you guys still only seeing... Oh no, okay, there's a bit of lag in the stream. Okay. So yeah, so what am I doing here? So I'm able to validate licenses before getting download links from WooCommerce, and I'm able to manage how the download links are retrieved and stuff like that. And then I've got all my custom error messages. So again, a lot of work to implement, but I think it was worthwhile. And then this was the main thing I wanted, this transfer license thing, and that required quite a bit of customization that I wouldn't have been able to do with that other licensing plugin. So I think I made the right choice to go with this one, and the API was so simple that it was not too difficult to do. The other thing I added was some sort of custom metadata to the products. So if you're not familiar with WooCommerce, it's basically a way to have your own marketplace website or your own shop website where you're selling products, and this is the sort of standard product page, and you can have files for users to download. So so yeah, I did do something with demo files because I've got it there, but I can't remember what I actually did. I can't remember if it's implemented. That's weird actually. I want to check if I implemented that because I should have. Oh, I know what it'll be, because they've got a license for this product. The demo won't show up. Let's take away their license, and by they I mean me. So that'll be this one. So let's deactivate the license. Will that work? Let's try that. And resync. Expect a crash. No crash. Good. And install demo. There we go. So yeah, I did actually implement a demo thing. So it'll download a cut down version of the expansion if they don't have a license. So I guess like a lot of people ask for that kind of thing as well. So I thought that'd be useful. So reactivate that. I got distracted. What was I doing? Oh yeah, so I've got custom metadata in here somewhere. Attributes, that's it. So like that file size, 250 megs. So when you click on it, the file size you're seeing here, that's where it's getting that data from. It's getting it from this custom attribute I've set. Format, it's an expansion, not like a VST plugin. Version number, that's for checking if updates are available. expansion name, VSCO. That was just like a test thing I was doing with the VSCO sample library. Demo, is there a demo version available? Yes, there is. Placeholder text. I don't think there's anything interesting in there. Blah 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 blah. I'm sure that was useful for something. Oh, that's my product reviews. Yeah, definitely want that. So yeah, I had to do a bit of customization there, but it really wasn't that much work to implement the website part of it. The main bulk of the work was creating this custom API, and also I'd never done any WordPress development before, so this was all new to me, how to create a custom plugin. I have done PHP before, so that part wasn't too hard, although it was years ago, so I had to relearn some stuff. But it's actually not that dissimilar to JavaScript. I mean, you've got like for each loops, which is sort of the equivalent of, actually in JavaScript you've got for each, but in HISE you've got your for in loop, which is like a for each loop. It's just a bit backwards. So instead of in HISE you do for L in licenses, whereas in this you do for each licenses as L. So things like that. But like if you can program in HISE, you can do PHP. It's not that difficult. You've just got to go and look in the docs to find out what the commands are that you need. And most of this information was from either the WordPress documentation or the WooCommerce documentation, and then a little bit from that license manager's documentation. I'm not sure if my chat's froze or not, so I haven't seen anything in there for 10 minutes, so it may just be that everybody's left or you've all gone quiet, or it could be that my chat's broken. So say something just to let me know you're still there. Need to get more root beer. Get public products. Yeah, so this is where I'm grabbing all of the data about the products, and then I'm feeding that back over. So let's have a look in the live stream here to get the data. Let's see, you'll probably see this now as well. Nice stuff, David. Okay, so I am up to date with the live stream. Okay. So when I'm getting the data, that's being pulled in. Where am I synchronizing? Rebuild cache. So I think it's in here somewhere. Response. Yeah, it'd be response. So let's print that out. And now that we haven't had a crash for a while, we're definitely due a crash. No, still not crashed. Okay, good. So will we see this response? I don't know if that's in there. That's probably, yeah, that's gone now. Okay, so this is all the data it's grabbing from the server. And as I say, all of this is non-secure data, so it doesn't matter that, because this is going to be an open source app, so it doesn't matter that the users can see this. And when I pass this to my beta testers, who some of you may be, we're just contemplating you. Some of you guys may end up being beta testers. I'll be asking you to try and hack my server through the information that I'm providing in here, because this is what the user gets and they can see all of this. So I try not to put anything that's critical to the infrastructure or to the security on the client side. And that's just good practice anyway, even if you're releasing something that's proprietary. So that's pretty much what they get for each product. There's a few extra bits in there actually, like is it in their wish list. I did originally implement a wish list thing, but I took that out. So the only thing really actually that is on the client side, as it were, that's secure is the encryption key. So those files, whether the cache files and the credentials, those are encrypted with an encryption key which has to be visible to the user. They have to, I mean, there's no way to release an open source product with an encryption key that isn't visible. So anybody who wants to open these files can, it's not really a problem. And the only reason I encrypted them was sort of just to prevent casual looking in there, I guess. I don't know why really. I don't think it would pose any security risk. Certainly not any security risk to me. I guess it kind of stops people prying into other people's data. So if you're using a shared machine, for example, and somebody finds your credentials file, they can't just look in there and see what your login is. So actually what I might do, I might encrypt. It might be wiser for me to encrypt those credential files using the user's password rather than a generic encryption key. Yeah, I might try doing that because I hadn't thought of that before. But yeah, from the user's point of view, there is a reason why they might want their credentials secure. Especially if those are the same credentials that they use to log into the website, and they don't want people logging in and seeing all their purchase history and things like that. Do you guys have any questions? Is there anything you particularly want to know? Anything that you've got an urge to learn about HISE that I may be able to help with, that I may be able to show you something? Or do you have any snippets of code that you're working on? I picked the best password. Yeah, can't go wrong with that. Nobody will guess that. I mean, it's not quite as good as 4321, which you've been known to use from time to time, but it's a pretty good password. Here's something that I'll show you this. Let's see if I make a new file. So if I had a file, and I'm trying to think of let's say your idea with using the user's password will not work if you want to load the user's password with itself. Oh yeah, because the user's password. But what about if they had to enter their password every time, but then there's no point in keeping their credentials? Yeah, I see what you're saying. That won't work because I'd have to store their password somewhere in order to use their password to unlock their password. Yeah, let's scrap that idea. That's probably why I didn't do it. Right, let's say I had a namespace in my project called settings because I'm creating a settings panel. So I'd have a panel on my UI, call it settings, and let's just say I had in here a function called save settings, and who knows what it does. Maybe it writes something to a file, but in this case it's just going to print my default hello world. So the user does something. Let's have a button. They click the save button. This will be the save button. And it calls settings.save settings. Should just be settings.save really, shouldn't it? Let's turn save in preset off. Let's make it momentary. If value. Okay. So I hit F5. Now when I press this button, it should print out hello world, or at least that's what we'd expect. And if it does, then I've gone wrong because it shouldn't. Let's see. Oh, it does. Okay. That's annoying. I was hoping it wouldn't, because you see we've got this class called settings, and this has caused me problems with having a namespace called settings and a class called settings. Okay, let's see if there's something else I can do. So if I make a function called get zoom level, let's see what happens now. So I click save and it's still printing hello world. Okay, well that's kind of good, because really if you were typing settings.getZoomLevel, you'd want it to call settings.getZoomLevel, wherever it is, getZoomLevel. But it's calling my function in my settings namespace. So my whole point of this is that you shouldn't call a namespace settings, because it will only lead to confusion. So I usually call mine user settings or settings handler or something like that. In fact, let's see what happens if we put in here settings.getZoomLevel. Will it figure out that I'm wanting to call the settings from the settings class? Oh, crash. There we go. That's the kind of thing that I'm usually getting with this. So yeah, I had I spent an hour or so trying to figure out why my project wasn't working, and it's because I had a namespace called settings and there is already a class called settings. So let's open another project. Let's do this one. So this is one I've now completed. Well, I hope it's complete, and I've just sent it off to, oh, it's crashed. Of course it's crashed. I've just sent it off to my beta testers and demo writers, and hopefully it's not crashing for them. There we go. So this is another quirk of the new layout branch you'll see is when you're loading projects you'll get all this component not found stuff. So I'm not sure why that happens, but it's the project still loads fine. Sometimes it says it can't find my fonts as well, but it loads fine. So this one, so this is a Santur. I assume I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but it's basically a hammered dulcimer, and this is kind of my test project for this UI that I'm using. Let's just see if I've got just default. But yeah, so this has gone to beta testers, so I'm hoping I'll be ready to release this next month, which will be nice because I haven't released a library for 2 years, I think. It's been ages. I've just been working on lots of things. But this one thing I've done with this, which I hadn't really explored with my previous libraries, is using slider packs to store data for each articulation. And this is something that's really handy. So where's a slider pack? So I've got these little sliders here, and these control the gain for each articulation. So you can sort of balance the articulations if one's slightly louder than the other, or the user just wants to have one adjusted. They can tweak these sliders and adjust it. But I wanted these values to be saved in preset, and I didn't want to have individual sliders for each one of these because that's a lot of extra components to manage. I mean, I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got 7 articulations here, so that means 7 extra sliders. So what I actually did, this is just a single panel with unpleasantly complex paint routine to manage the positions of each of these sliders. But it also means I can change the number of articulations. So if I record some more, or I want to use this script in another project, it will adapt and draw the correct number of sliders for however many articulations there are. But in order to save the data, because this is only a single panel, I had to use, well, I could have done it in a single panel, but storing data in a panel and retrieving it can get a bit messy. So what I did was I connected these up to a slider pack, and then the slider pack is saved in the preset. So I think it's this one. Let's make it visible. Yeah, so this is the slider pack that's actually storing that data, and it's inside this panel, so I have to make sure the width is correct. And this actually has 25 sliders in case I ever decide to add more articulations. So each of these sliders is controlling this hidden slider pack, and then when the preset's restored, it just restores the values from the slider pack. So really handy to use slider packs in this way. I've never actually used a slider pack as a sort of main interface component. I know some people really like using them on the main interface, but I haven't found a use for them yet. But as hidden components just for storing values that can be restored with a preset, they're really useful. What's that one? Reminder problem from the old days when HISE doesn't find components at init. Yeah, it is weird that it's complaining that it can't find the components, but at least it's only an empty threat. It still loads the project okay. Well, most of the time anyway. Occasionally I'll get a crash. But the other thing I decided to do, so I've got that. Let's see, restore those. So those slider packs are for the gain. But then it occurred to me, like with a lot of sample libraries, and I remember this with, I think it was East West Play when I used to use their orchestral libraries. They had an ADSR, but it was for the whole instrument. So if you changed articulation between like staccato and sustain, you'd be using the same envelope curve for both of them, and you'd have to sort of tweak it with automation to make it to add variance between the articulations. So I thought it'd be good to save these values with each articulation and save that in the preset. So these are done in the same way using a hidden slider pack, which is somewhere. There it is. So this, I've got 250 sliders, so we won't be able to, I don't think they'll render. Oh, they kind of almost render. So each articulation is going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sliders to represent its ADSR curve. So every 6 sliders we switch to the next articulation. So I don't think we'll see any values change on here though, because the range is like -100 to plus 20,000 to cover all the different values that these knobs can have. But I'm using the same technique, and then so these knobs are not set to save in preset. They've all got their save in preset turned off, but the slider pack, that is set to save in preset, and then in the script I'm just restoring its value to these knobs when the preset's loaded and when you change articulation. So you're storing the panel data in the slider pack. Yeah, well, it's not even the panel data. It's the let's have a look how I'm doing it, because it was a while ago that I did it. I'll have hopefully named the file logically. Articulations, that sounds like a good location. Let's have a look. Articulations. Change articulation. Set articulation gain. That looks promising. Right, so this is what I'm doing, I guess. So where am I calling that? This is probably in the mouse callback. Mouse callback. I tried to organize all my files the same, so functions are at the bottom and UI stuff is up at the top. So it's a bit like a model view controller paradigm, which I've... Is paradigm the right word? Which I've used before, and I used to use that in Contact, except now I'm putting the model view and controller all in a single file. So set paint routine, articulation list, mouse, callback. Panel. Okay, so this is for the gain panel. So yeah, so this is where I'm doing that calculation to find out which slider's being moved. No, it's not. That's the one where I'm painting it. This is the one where I'm finding out where it's being moved. So calculating the value and all that good stuff to figure out which slider the mouse is over. And then what am I doing? If the value does not equal the current value, so that's for, okay, so if I've changed the value of, see, am I storing the value anywhere? Where are we storing the value? This dot get value, but I don't see where I'm storing it. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. At some point I'm going to this function here, set articulation gain, which I'm also calling here for some reason. Oh, that's when you change articulation. And set articulation gain is getting the value from the slider, so that's the slider in the slider pack, and applying it to articulation gain dot set attribute. So that's applying it to another script I've got somewhere, which is presumably called articulation gain, which I'm not seeing anywhere. Let's see what it's called. So that'll be up at the top. Articulation gain, MIDI processor articulation gain. Huh, I'm not seeing one called. Oh, there it is, right at the top. Okay, so I've got a separate script up there that's controlling the actual gain of the notes. But where is it being set? Where are we setting the slider pack? See, I have to dissect my own script now because I can't remember. Oh, okay. So it was here in the mouse callback. So when you move one of these sliders, it updates it figures out which one it is and sets that as the panel's index. For some reason I'm doing that, I can't remember why. And then it assigns a value. So basically moving these sliders directly controls that slider pack, and then the slider pack through this function set articulation gain controls this script articulation gain, which is doing something. Okay, so in the note on callback it's just setting the gain of the message. So that's does it affect the note off as well? Yeah, it does the same in note off. Okay, so that's kind of the sequence that this follows. So none of the data needs to be stored in the panel. So in fact this panel should be, I think, saving preset false. Yeah, so saving preset is disabled on this panel, so it's not actually stored in the panel's data for any sort of useful purpose, although apparently I'm storing it somewhere and I've just forgotten about it. I really don't know where that's being stored. Oh, that's going to bug me. Set value is nowhere to be seen. Well, I guess I'm setting it somewhere. Huh. Oh well, it works, so I'm not going to question it. I used to write lots and lots and lots of comments in my code. When I was first starting, one of the things I did, especially back when I was at college, I'd put a comment on almost every line. Usually at the end of the line, I'd put a comment to say this does whatever it does. And I'd do that for almost every line. It wasn't quite that extreme. And I used to get praised for my detailed comments. And I used to think that was the way to go. I used to like lots and lots of comments. But now I have sort of shifted my ideas as I've done more coding, as I've got more experience, especially doing more proper programming with JavaScript and other languages. And now I don't comment so much, but I write code that is what's called self-documenting. And if you look at the HISE source code, it's very much like this, where like often you'd have a function that did something, and then you'd write a comment that says, let's say you have a function that outputs a message, and then you have a comment that says this function outputs a message. But it's actually easier just to write a function called output message, and then you know what it does. You don't need a comment to tell you that it outputs a message because it's in the function's name. So having self-documenting code makes things much easier. One thing I do in HISE is when I'm laying out my code, I'll have like constants at the top. Then I go into the UI stuff, and for each component I'll put a comment with the name of the component. And the only reason I do that is not because I need to know it, because on the next line it's got it, but as I'm scanning through my code I can quickly find which component has its block starting where, and especially for panels, because panels might have a big block of code because you've got the actual declaration, you've got the control callback, you've got the paint routine, then the mouse callback, and I just want to quickly find a component. I just look for the green line. So that's why I have those comments, and then I have ones to break up sections as well, so I know where my functions start. And if there's something complicated, like that indentation is not correct. Oh, that was done in the old editor. I can tell by the dots. Let's correct that. If I've got a complicated calculation or something that I don't quite understand because I've copied it from somebody else or they've posted it on the forum, tell me out. Like I'm guessing this looks like stuff that I wouldn't have done myself. I'll keep the comments in there just for my own reference so I know what's going on. But generally now I don't really comment very much. I just try to be sort of self-documenting, and I can kind of follow the chain of where things are going. What's going on there? This way of working also helps when I'm looking through the HISE source. If I want to find something, I kind of know that Christoph has worked in a similar way, so I can just sort of read the actual names of the functions or the names of variables. It's often a thing when you're setting like a flag variable, like if you want at a certain point in your code to display a pop-up, you can have a variable called should display pop-up, and then you can just tell by the name of that should display pop-up that it's going to be a boolean, because should display, it can only be like a yes or a no, so you know that when you're looking through the code you're looking for this boolean variable, and if it's true, well, you know it's going to display a pop-up, and if it's false it's not going to. So self-documenting code is very helpful, and having a standardized way to lay it out. So I lay out all my files in the same way. So if we open like, I think this one should have quite a bit in it. Yeah. So again, constants at the top, and then this one doesn't have any UI stuff, so it's straight into functions. So all these functions, and again, they'll be self-documenting. So that one is called create. And because the namespace in the file is called cards, I know that's cards.create, so this is going to create a card. And in this case, what I mean by card is one of these outlined areas. Hey, that's interesting. Look at that. Put the mouse over velocity, and the changes color. Same with envelope, but not with these ones. Okay, so there's a bug. I need to fix that. It shouldn't. It's because these used to be buttons, but they're not anymore. So I need to change that. So yeah, draw knob range. You don't need a comment to tell you what that function does. It draws the range of a knob. So that's this 0 to 127 that we're seeing there. So it's just makes it so much easier. Draw table background. Let's see if I've got another one that actually does something with the UI. Envelope. So why is it telling me there's an error? There's no error. Yeah, go away. So again, constants at the top. UI stuff, and a comment for each one so I can quickly find which UI element it is. Control callbacks, part of the UI, and then again into functions. So I've got this standardized way of laying out my files, and it just makes it much easier for me to work and figure out what's going on. And I do things like I'll always use camel case with a lowercase on the first character and stuff like that. Now there's something I wouldn't usually do. See, I've got that saying if state equals false. Usually I'd do a shorthand, and I'd just use an invert operator and do that. But sometimes that's a bit easier to read. It doesn't matter too much, but I try to, as some of you on the forum will be quite aware, I try to reduce my lines of code. But I try to do it without reducing readability. I always want my code to be readable for my own benefit as much as anyone else's. Change articulation. Yeah, or something else I'm doing. Let's fix that bug actually. So mouse is going over velocity. So this must be in that cards file we were looking at. So let's see what we've got in here. So draw title. So where am I drawing this velocity card? Probably here. Here we go. Panel, velocity, container, velocity. So why is that being highlighted? And the envelope one is, but articulations isn't. So let's see. Let's see where they are. So that one. So that's this panel here. Velocity container and dynamics. DXF container, and then I've got another panel in there. So why? Oh, I know what it is. It's going to be, yeah, I've just got the callbacks enabled. That's all it is. So if I disable callbacks on it, no callbacks there, no callbacks there. I'm guessing that's the way I've got this set up. Yeah, so now when I hover the mouse over, that text won't dim. Okay, good. So I've solved another bug I didn't know was there. It's not a major bug, but it's always nice to solve these easy ones. Right guys, well this has been, how long have we been? Been about 2 hours now. So I think I will call it a night, but if you do have any questions I'll give you a minute to post them and let me know if there's anything you want me to quickly go over. It's been nice to do this again. It's been a couple of years since I've done a live stream. And I should do them more often really, because most of the time I'm just sat here working in HISE anyway, so talking to you guys while I'm doing it isn't much of a problem for me, and it can be educational I guess, and while I'm showing things I always come across bugs that I wouldn't notice otherwise, so it's helpful for me in that sense. Okay. Copy component name, Shift Control F, and you'll find where it's used. Copy component name. How do you mean? Do you mean if I copy it in the, like if I copy it here? Ah, Shift Control F doesn't work for me. Yeah, I'm pressing that, it doesn't work. And if I go down here and click on it, then I get it. Oh look, I didn't even have to copy it. I just have to highlight it and it pastes it in. At least I think that's what's happened. Let's try it on that one. That's the same one. Let's try it on that one. Yeah, so you don't even have to copy it, it just pastes it in automatically. But yeah, the shortcut key doesn't work for me. I don't know why. The Control F1 does. That works fine. Maybe it's something to do with the Shift key. I'd have to look in the source and see what's going on there, because it's probably some Linux related thing. And Search and Replace is listed as Control G, but I don't think that works either. No, that doesn't work either. Is it? Oh, it's capital G, but I don't think that makes a difference. No. Yeah, well, I mean, it's good for finding it in the code, but if I've got to highlight it anywhere, I have to have already found it in the code. I suppose if I want to find out where it occurs elsewhere, but generally I'm always going to keep references to my components in a single place. It's very rare that I will reference a component in another namespace. So like each of these files that I've got here, each of these includes, they all have their own namespace. So if I go to, let's bring up that envelope one again. So the envelope has everything related to this envelope panel. So all of the stuff for the envelope panel, all the functionality and all the component variable references, they're all going to be in this one file. So it's not likely that I'll be referencing one of these components in another file. Kind of the only exception to that is if I have a file, let's see if I've got one, called theme or look and feel. I've got both look and feel and theme. So in the theme file, I might want to set components that are in other files, but generally I'll use a loop and just go through all of them. Am I doing that here? Change theme, set component properties from theme. Yeah, so I'm just doing it in a loop here. So I'm getting all components and just looping through them all. So it's rare that I would need to find out, like once I've found where a component is in a file, it's rare that I'm going to be looking for references to it in other files. I keep them all in one place. It's that model view controller thing. This is my view, and it's also the model because I've got the functionality for each control in here as well. And then the controller part is the functions, wherever that is, down here. So it's like a modular model view controller. It's a really good I came across Model View Controller when I was doing web design and using the CodeIgniter framework, and at the time I had to get an add-on or something like that. There was some sort of hack to make it work with modules, and I had every part of my website had this modular Model View Controller, and I had one module for every database table. If you've done web design, you probably know what I'm talking about, but if you haven't, it might be less clear. But generally, websites got loads of tables in your back-end database, and so I was making one code module for every table, and each one had a model view controller file, and then I sort of adopted that for contact development. And then in HISE, I wasn't really thinking about it, but I was just I was using namespaces and I was trying to keep everything sort of in its own space, and I ended up with this, which I realized is essentially model view controller modules. Engine.setAllow duplicate samples is doing in my init script. Yes, I can explain that. At the moment it isn't doing anything because I think it only works with when you convert to monolith. Oh, actually I might have converted these to monolith. Let me see. No, these aren't monoliths. So, but if you're using monoliths, I think that's when it's effective. But actually I don't know why I'm using it in this project. I think I might have just copied and pasted that from another project. Oh, I'm using it for this, I know why. So it's a bit unintuitive because I've set it to false. But in this project, so you can see I've got an articulation called RITS and one called RITS DXF, and DXF is just dynamic crossfade. So if I play this, you'll hear what this articulation sounds like. So this is different to all the others. Most of these articulations are just like one shots. Oh, set that ADSR back to how it should be. So these are all one shots, but the RITS is it's a tremolo and it's continuous, just looped. So you can hold that down indefinitely, and with the RITS articulation, depending on how hard you press, it's velocity sensitive and it'll trigger a different dynamic layer. So I also thought I'll do a crossfade version. But I didn't want to have two sets of samples because that will use up extra hard drive space and RAM. I wanted it to share the same samples, but I wanted to create two different sample maps. So I've got this DXF sample map, which is just the RITS samples, and then I've got the velocity sample map, which has all of the other samples. But I want the two sample maps to share the same samples for these RITS articulations. So to do that, you set this set allow duplicate samples to false, which I think it should be, if it's allowing the duplicates, it should set them to true. But I guess you're not duplicating the samples, it's a duplicate reference. Anyway, whatever. You set it to false, and then it should reference the same samples. And I need to do some more tests with that, but I think it only works once the samples have been converted to monoliths. Another place I'm using this is I was in Sophia Woodwinds. I'm using the staccato samples also as the release samples. And if you were going to do things like you wanted one set of samples to be reversed and one set to be played forward, again, this might be a good candidate for that, because you're going to want to use the same samples. You don't want to have to have a duplicate set just for that. Is that a loop or a timer making the tremolo? Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, never mind, got it. Yeah, it's actually they were recorded like that, and really nice samples. So these were recorded remotely. I do a lot of my, in fact, pretty much all of my recording now is done remotely. It's nothing to do with COVID. I've just been doing that for the last few years. But I used to do all my recordings myself. There's a university nearby that has a studio, and I had a friend who was at the university, so I got access to the studio. So we did a lot of recordings there, but and some of them I've done previously in my home studio where I was living previously. But nowadays I tend to just contract it all out and do it remotely. And some of them, for the big orchestral stuff, I'll be present for the session virtually, like we'll communicate over Skype and I'll have a stream so I can hear it and everything. But for this one, I just I found this brilliant musician, and I said, do you want to record a set of samples? And he was very keen on it, and he just went away and recorded them. He did a few test recordings first of all and came back to me and asked me if they were suitable, and then he just went away and recorded these samples and gave me the sessions. I edited them, and yeah, they're really nice. I've been it was a year ago he recorded these. I've been holding on to them for that long, trying to edit them and do all the coding and everything. So I'm really happy that I'm finally getting this released, because I really wanted to get it released much earlier this year, but I drag my heels with things. I really like to play around and experiment and stuff before I settle down on an implementation, but I'm pretty pleased with how this has come out. And you may have noticed that this UI is very similar to the one for the new version of Sophia Woodwinds, and that was the other thing I wanted to do. I just wanted to get one set of UI components that I could share between all my instruments, so I don't have to redesign the UI every single time, because that takes up so much development time. But for some things I'll probably still do separate UIs. But all of this, by the way, is done with look and feel. So all these knobs and well, not that, that's a paint routine, but the table, these knobs, these sliders, it's all look and feel stuff. So the great thing about that is the vectors. So it means if I scale this up, where is that scale? It just looks perfect. It scales beautifully, and everything fits how it should. There's a few tricky things like doing this drop shadow under the knobs, and this scale that's behind it, this thing that shows the range, that's a separate paint routine on the panel that's behind it. So things like that were a bit fiddly to implement, but overall I think it was worth it. Alright guys, thank you very much for joining me. We should do this again. If you've got any questions or comments, you can always leave them below the video and I can get back to you about them afterwards, or post on the HISE forum. Thank you, Christoph, for joining in and giving me a few tips that thing about holding control to show multiple modulators, that is going to be very handy because I've been wondering about that myself for a while. Alright, I'm going to figure out how I can close down this stream, and I'll see you guys, well, next video will be probably next Saturday, so I will see you guys again soon. Now how do I